Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And we're going to Shark Island, but I don't just remember seeing any sharks. And joining me for this episode is my buddy Adam. Adam, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
There,
I
there
did.
were sharks.
Huh?
There are sharks. We'll get to that.
There was a lot more Confederate soldiers and stuff like that in this movie compared to the
Yeah,
sharks,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
this is a this is an interesting film, which I did not look up the synopsis before I watched, and then I'm like, why is Abraham Lincoln
Same.
here? and then
Yeah.
and then it got into the movie. But we'll get there soon because if you haven't turned into Welcome to the Wasteland before, we have three segments. We have coming attractions for the week of January 12th. Yes, it's January, so hopefully some of these movies are good. And then we have our feature, The Prisoner of Shark Island, and then we have some recommendations for you. But opening this weekend, probably there's one big film that I feel like is going to make the biggest splash. And Adam, why is Mean Girls your most anticipated movie for this week?
Well, Mean Girls because I actually watched it again recently with my daughter. And so many reasons. I love the original Mean Girls. I think
Mhm.
it's amazing. And also, I've since The Nice Guys, I've been a watcher of Gary Rice as well
Yep.
because obviously she's Australian, and I like to see her career, and I like to follow the careers of fellow countrymen as well. So, really interested to see how she does in this.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's got Tina Fey and Tim Meadows are back in it, so
Yes.
really kind of it's more of a more of a voyeuristic interest in seeing how this musical version comes
Mhm.
out. To be honest, rather than it's something I really want to see. I'm just more super interested because the original is awesome. Like it's
Oh,
such
the
a great
original's
film.
so amazing, and it's 20 years old now, which is crazy to think about. So happy
Oh
20
God,
years they're remaking you. Yes,
so much is on.
please make sure to know this is a musical going in.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
every trailer for a musical movie will try to convince you that it's not. So, just so that you all know, you are going into a
They like to
musical,
do that.
which it made me so happy when I saw the first teaser trailer and saw Tina Fey and Tim Meadows in this again. I'm like,
Yeah,
you
same.
could
Yeah.
have, and then they got John Hamm to be the PE and health
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
which that's so great. Which that's
If you do
interesting.
have sex, you'll die.
Yeah. What's so interesting with this is because, in the original Mean Girls, it's like, oh, we have Lindsay Lohan as the other girl that comes up into the school and try to frump her up a bit so it doesn't look like she's the most attractive girl in school.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I feel like they went in a different direction with this, at least. Because, nothing against Rice, but, she's not
Mm.
Lindsay Lohan famous. And which
No,
I think that's
not yet.
a good thing. But also,
Mm.
the actress who they got for Regina George is in the Sex Lives of College Girls, that Max series, which she's so great and I love her.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm very excited to see this movie. And I haven't seen the musical and I don't know any of the music. So I'm kind of going in blind, which honestly I prefer. And we'll
Renee
be
Rapp.
see. Yep. And then
Yeah.
the film that I'm most excited about for this week is the Book of Clarence, which uh I actually did get a chance to see before this is released, before we're recording. But what really got me excited about this is the trailer made it seem like a complete lampooning of historical epics and stuff like that, which I was all aboard for. I'm like, is this going to be like a modern, Life of Brian kind of situation, which would be interesting. I did see the film. It's partially that. It's actually a pretty nice homage to historical epics too, and a very specific black voice perspective on it. And I was
Mm.
super excited because I love Lakeith Stanfield and he's in
Yeah,
this.
same.
He's the lead in this,
Yep.
and the cast looks really well. The cast is fantastic. You even have a couple of the Roman characters played by James McAvoy, and Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie. I will not spoil anything, about why Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie, but all I'm gonna say is it's pretty fantastic. So this was definitely one I was super excited about. So it's a very interesting and ambitious kind of movie. It isn't like it's a lot more like meaningful and heart. Like I got a little emotional at points. Like this is not just like
Mm,
Life of Brian, just to warn people because trailers suck and they misrepresent movies all the time. So don't go in thinking that this is 2 hours and 15 minutes of ha ha funny. So you're all informed better than the trailer probably informed you of. But those are some interesting films coming out this week. And also, for those who are interested, it also has Jason Statham's The Beekeeper, which I laugh every time I watch that trailer because it's so ridiculous. But it's Jason
mm,
Statham. So, but
yeah,
getting into our feature of the week, which is The Prisoner of Shark Island. And I have a bit of background for the film. So this is a John Ford film from 1936, finally moved into 1936. What's interesting is John Ford released like 4 or 5 films a year. So like for a whole entire month
yeah.
of like we're doing this year. So, but we're moving on. So it's 1936. This is based on the story of Dr. Samuel Mudd, who was a doctor who treated John Wilkes Booth after his injuries assassinating Abraham Lincoln, and he was indeed sent away to prison. It's based off of a book, The Life of Dr. Mudd, and Daryl F. Zanuck got the idea after reading an article about prison camps on Dry Tortugas. So it's kind of like a melding of like, hey, this real story, but I read this really interesting article about prison islands. So, and then what was created was this film. But Adam, what are your general thoughts on The Prisoner of Shark Island?
Well, I guess kind of like you, I went into this. I just pushed play. I had no idea anything what any of it was about. So I was surprised that it was a true story.
Mhm.
I didn't know they did too many true stories back in those days in the 30s. General thoughts is that it is a well made film, and I actually think the lead Warner Baxter. I think he's actually quite good. I think his
Yep.
performance is really. It can be a little bit hammy, like stage play hammy, but it's still quite a good performance. It looks really good. It's really well made, and it's still actually quite an interesting story the way it plays out. Obviously, it has some undertones of pro Southern pro Southerners. That's an American thing. I don't. It's probably not for me to comment on, but I did actually quite like this film though. Like, it's not going to blow your socks off, but actually a really enjoyable watch.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because it's a really well told story and it
Mm,
has a really interesting story. Like if you take all the context out specifically, it's a story of some guy treats somebody who winds up injured and shows up at his front door, and then
mhm.
the perspective told he's wrongfully imprisoned, thrown
Yep.
onto this prison island. You have some cool escape opportunities, and then honestly, where the story takes you and the context of like how Mud kind of gets his humanity back and getting trust back. It's interesting how this film plays out. I was particularly impressed by like the technical aspects of like his escape
Mm,
attempt. Like
yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
really tense and suspenseful. And I'm like, see, this is why John Ford won 4 Oscars for directing,
Yeah.
which he did, which is a
Absolutely.
record. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he's a really talented director. And
Absolutely.
it has strong performances. The lead is very strong. There's some other like pretty famous people who pop up in this film in smaller roles, like John Ford's own brother starred in one of the roles in this film, and then there's a couple other the
Gloria Stewart's in there as well from Titanic fame.
I did not realize that. That's very interesting.
Didn't you realize that was Gloria Stewart? Yeah, she was his wife.
Yep, I did not realize that that's she was from Titanic. Harry Carey is in this, who was in a lot of like early John Ford films. Francis Ford, his
So
brother.
I was going to ask, can I just while you're talking about Francis Ford, is there any connection with Coppola there, or no? Or is that just pure coincidence?
I wonder if his named after him or that's just a real coincidence. Like a
Yeah,
serious
interesting. Hey,
coincidence.
yeah.
And like John Carradine's in this, and there's just like a lot of like pretty famous character actors that like pop up in some of the roles in this. And
Mm.
overall, I enjoyed the story and everything. Now, let me ruin it. Watching this, especially somebody, it's like I was born, raised, lived in, will probably die in New Jersey. New Jersey, for context, is a northern state, which is so strange because part of New Jersey is below the Mason-Dixon line, which was like the cutoff point, which is strange. Which there are people in New Jersey, in deep South Jersey, which I like to call it, who do drive around with Confederate flags and lifted trucks and think that they're in the South.
Wow.
It's very interesting because the context of this is, this guy treated John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Abraham Lincoln. I don't know what the real context was. I don't know if he really was a collaborator or like this really
Mm.
played out the way that it did. But like the film, the context of this film is telling it as like this was a doctor just did not know. And then you have his father-in-law screaming at a little girl, it was all about states' rights. And I'm just like, I got triggered immediately. And I'm just like, of course. Because, like,
Yes. Yeah.
thinking about context, as we're recording this, somebody threw a gotcha question at presidential candidate Nikki Haley,
Yes. I actually saw
which
that.
that triggered me so quickly because I'm just like,
Yeah.
all Nikki Haley had to say was it was about slavery. But
Yeah.
like that person
Yeah.
asked that question very specifically to see if she said that or not. Because this is
Yeah.
still a relevant argument in 2024.
It's
So
yeah.
so it's it was so interesting with that perspective. And then there's a scene of our main character who's our hero arguing that those black men are still his slaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
like, oh my. Because, like, and then that's where the parts where it's like, I'm supposed to be sympathetic to this person, and then he's still arguing about, like, enslaving people. And I'm just like,
That's right.
okay. And then the main slave character consistently tries to support him throughout this whole entire film,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
completely loyal. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
these are all very interesting choices. And it's that kind of thing where it muddies my enjoyment on some level of, like this is a well-told story. It's a well-made film, but there's just so many of like the context of it all. Because that's the thing. John Ford very obviously, whether he believed in it or was just playing up to it or not, made a
Yeah. I
lot
don't
of
know.
films that were like Confederate sympathizing films. He's from
Yeah.
Maine.
He's pushing an agenda. It does feel like he's pushing an agenda, though. Like from
Yeah.
yeah, that's the way it feels from everything you're saying. And maybe yeah, some stuff I don't. It doesn't gel with me as I'm watching it because that doesn't affect my life. Like it's not something
Mhm.
I've studied in history. Is the American
I
Civil
wish it
War?
did
I
still
mean,
affect my life, but living in
yeah,
2024,
that's
it still
that's the
does.
thing, man. Your country is no less divided than when before the Civil War. Honestly,
Yep.
it's kind of laughable. On it. And sorry to say that, I'm not trying to bag out America, but
Well, what's so
we're laughing at you.
interesting is, did you see the trailer for Alex Garland's Civil War?
No, 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 I haven't. Is it
It's
like that?
about a modern civil war in the United States. And I'm like,
What the-
I love Alex Garland. I love his work. I love Ex Machina. I love Annihilation. I love Men a lot more than other people with that movie.
I hate
But
that movie so much.
you what?
Well, just I hated Men so
That's
much.
the
I thought it
thing.
was just
Either people thought it was great or absolutely despised that movie. But here's the thing, Alex Garland, this is not the way that you follow that movie up. Which, like, I want to be excited for his next movie, but I don't know if I want to watch this because I'm just like, this is way too close to home. And it's there's still so much toxicity in our country. And then watching a film like this from like 1936, which this film is closer to the Civil War than today. So, like, putting that
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
context, which is very interesting to think about, is it took away from it. But like what's interesting is once he got to like the prison, which like people got
yeah,
mad who just hated him automatically because he assassinated Abraham Lincoln.
yeah.
Once it was like a prison film, it was really, really effective.
It was
And
great. It was
yeah,
really great.
so this is such an interesting film because of that. And I explained this I think last week because the my last episode, Steamboat Round the Bend, was much more obnoxiously stupid movie, all with so much like Confederate sympathizing in it.
Right.
Like there's tears here. Like there's a great John Ford films where I'm like, this is why he's remembered as being like one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And then, there's some stuff that I'm like, he certainly made this probably because money, which is fine. And then there's
Yeah.
other films of his
Yeah.
that like are lower on my ranking because I can't get past some of like the very like outwardly racist caricatures of black people in them, which this one briefly had a shot of a little kid being obnoxiously that way at the very beginning of the film. But generally,
Yep.
like they didn't portray the black characters the rest of the film as caricatures. It's just weird that like this guy wants to die on that hill and not give up slaves. But this film kind of falls in the middle for me because like if you take the context out, this is a really well made, well told story and is a really effective film. It's just there's a lot of baggage, a lot of baggage. And also every Union soldier in this is like painted out to be like this absolutely like blood hungry, like we're gonna crucify you. And there's like no
Yeah. Yeah.
nuance to those characters at all, which it's very interesting. It's I appreciate this journey that I'm going on through John Ford's filmography because it's giving me a lot of context of the evolution of film. And it's very interesting to
Yeah.
see like these were films that came out in the 1930s that probably a lot of people went to go see. Some of his most financially successful films were those Southern dramas that had a lot of like this Confederate
Is
sympathy
that right?
in them,
Right.
which was that why he made them? You know, could be.
Does Does he have a biography? Yeah, it's an interesting study. Just it's probably, yeah, a good director to go through his whole entire watching him evolve,
Yep,
and obviously watching cinema evolve with him, because we wouldn't have some of the great directors we have today without John Ford, obviously. So uh,
exactly.
there was the closing scene in this. Sorry to maybe jump ahead, but there's a closing scene. I think it's where the slaves, or they're walking off, and all I'm doing is I actually rewound it, and I had to look at where the horizon was on the final shot, and it's almost in the middle. And I'm like, but he's a little bit pointing down. I'm like, okay, all right. Had to
It's
see.
not quite like Last Crusade or it's like the bottom of the frame
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
sun horizon riding
full
off into the
sky.
sunset.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah.
I cannot, you know what? Every time they show a sun in a John Ford movie, I cannot not think about the Fablemans now and David
Yeah,
Lynch just
yeah,
being such a great John Ford for like
yeah.
a couple minutes in that movie. But no, like that's the thing. There's some really good, strong direction in this film. It tells an interesting story. So here's the thing. If you can take the baggage, push it to the side, and appreciate the film as like it's a good film, it's a good made film, then watch it.
Mm.
If all that stuff's gonna piss you off, don't watch it. And here's the
Yep.
thing, you can watch it for free on YouTube. So there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. I mean, from my perspective, I think from a historical point of view, and like I said, it's a decent story and it's well performed and well shot. Like especially when we get to the prison, like it's
Mhm.
the cinematography is stunning. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, well worth checking out.
there's some really cool shots of like showing like a storm and like a lighthouse and stuff like
Mm,
that. Like those shots looked really great. And it's because John Ford was a great director and really
yeah,
had an eye
absolutely.
for capturing that on screen.
Mm,
Trying to see if there was anything like they had this whole entire big breakout plan set up, and like there's a lot of like escape from Alcatraz kind of level of like we're gonna get the hell
yeah,
off this island kind of thing. And like I did appreciate like he got to be a doctor again towards like the end of the film
yeah,
and like when they needed him. And like
yes,
I thought that was a very
yellow,
interesting redemptive arc that they gave him in the
yeah,
film.
yeah.
So
Well, I think
that really worked
it
for me.
also told us. I think it also bookended the fact that he helped Wilkes Booth because it's his duty as a doctor,
Yep.
and all he did was live up to his duty as a doctor.
Mhm.
At the start and at the end, it was nothing about no allegiances. There was no conspiracy. There was no collaboration to kill. I nearly said Hitler for some reason. Lincoln. I don't know why I said Hitler.
Well,
Um,
if this was about somebody helping the person who potentially assassinated Adolf Hitler, this would be a very different movie. There'd
absolutely.
be a lot of
It'd be
different
paraded
sympathies
down the
going on in this
streets.
movie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Yeah, so I mean, I think that bookended it. Yeah, you're right. For character development, he was just a doctor doing his duty, like the
Mhm.
Hippocratic Oath type of. Yeah, yeah.
But I guess, Adam, do you have anything else that you wanted to add about The Prisoner of Shark Island?
No, no. I think I covered it. Just go back a little bit and just say, yeah. I mean, I do recommend if you're into that historical film and older film, yeah, definitely check it out. I think it's the best one of these in this series that I've seen of his.
Absolutely. And next week, I'm going to be diving into Mary of Scotland, which, if I'm not mistaken, stars Katharine Hepburn, which is pretty
Ooh,
cool. So, like, that's a pretty big like collaboration between John Ford and
mm,
pretty famous performer of the time. Yep, 1936, Katharine Hepburn as Mary Stewart. And I'll be doing that with my friend Paige will be joining me for that particular episode. But before
yeah.
we wrap up this episode, we have some recommendations for you. So, Adam, what would you like to recommend to everybody?
I'm gonna look kind of like I usually do an Apple TV Plus show, Monarch, the Legends and Monsters about just in the the Legend Godzilla universe. I I last year, I think it was last year, I just reluctantly checked out Converse Skull Island because of
Mhm.
honestly, just in total truth, because Brie Larson looked awesome in it. I wanted to see the movie. Um, screenshots I'd see,
To
and
be
I was
honest,
surprised how
that's
much I
the most she does in the movie. To be
yeah, well, she earns a paycheck, so she got eyes on screen. And I was surprised how much I liked it. So I've gone and checked out the rest of those that series, and I really enjoyed this. They're not really films that I would
Mhm.
just typically enjoy. So when I saw Monarch was coming, I was pumped about it, and haven't been disappointed. Mostly, like it's a very decent show. It's beautifully shot. It's got Kurt Russell. It's got a good young cast as well. It's starting to let itself down a little bit for me. It's getting a bit longer in the tooth, and it's a kind of a little bit formulaic.
Yeah, I
Which is
didn't think
kind of the
it'd need
reason
to
I
be
don't watch
10
a lot of TV.
episodes, probably.
No, no, no. It could have gone a bit shorter, and it could spend more time because it is split over timelines. So it could spend a bit more time in the past. I think that's where the most interesting part of the story is in the past. Um,
Oh, they
but
had that whole
yeah, I think
sequence with the bomb testing and Godzilla.
yeah, yeah,
So cool.
yeah. It's a kick ass. Like there's some great when the monsters are on. Like it's a kick ass show to watch, and it's looks as usual with Apple. It looks beautiful. It
Mhm.
sounds beautiful. Definitely worth a watch. And Kurt Russell's in it. I say it again.
Kurt Russell's
Just
so
check
great
if
in
you're a
it
Kurt Russell
too.
fan. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they have his real life son playing the
Mhm.
younger version of him is awesome. I think that's a really cool touch. Um, Yeah, really, I'm really enjoying it. So I'm keen to see these last two episodes.
Yeah, I
See
I
what comes
was
up.
super hopeful after the first like four episodes, and I'm like, this is gonna be so cool. And then they had a lot less
Yeah,
monsters in it than
yeah.
I thought it would. And then yeah, it's been spinning wheels a little bit, but like I do really like the scenes back in the past. Also, interesting choice to get Durs
Oh no,
Anders
Anders, I
home to
know, I
play a
love it.
young
I love it.
John Goodman because that's his
And he's
character. It's just like what?
yeah, and but he's if you know Jersey's from obviously Workaholics is one of the
Yeah,
greatest stupid sitcoms of all time, but I think he's holding up. Like he's
I
doing
think
pretty
he's doing
well
a good job.
as performing. Yeah,
And just quick piggyback on Kong Skull Island. That's just a fun movie. And
yeah,
and
absolutely.
also John C. Riley, if anything happened to him, I would have been so mad. I loved his
Yes,
character so much in that
I want
movie.
I want to get back into those. I actually should check them all out again. That'd be a good rewatch.
Which, as of us recording, two episodes left. When this episode drops, the finale will be released. So it wraps up January 12th this season. So it'll be
Yep.
interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how this like feeds into the bigger context because we have Godzilla
Mm,
X Kong coming out this year,
yes.
which just looks
Yeah.
like a giant brawl for it all of giant monsters. And I'm like, they insist there's long stretches of the film with no humans in it. And I'm like, you better not be lying to me because this is all I've been asking for this whole time.
As we sit here, I am staggered at how pumped I am for this movie to come out. Like, it's going to be crazy.
It looks like it's going to be an insane movie. And I'm really hoping
Yeah.
it's mostly just giant monsters fighting each other because that's what I've wanted out of the past couple of them. Which, here's the thing, the Godzilla 2014, I'm perfectly fine with the limited amount of
Yeah.
Godzilla in it. It's a
Yeah.
really well made film. My only thing is, you kill the really interesting character a third of the way through the movie, and I did not find Aaron Taylor Johnson's character interesting at all. And I'm just like, now I'm stuck with you. I should be with
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston right now.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, they bill it as Bryan Cranston, who's hot off Breaking Bad, big name actor, and then they kill him off
oh,
in
that
in it.
hit me
It's
so
weird.
hard. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. Uh, And then so many of the human characters in the last two have just been trash. But boy, when the monsters fight, it looks amazing.
It does. It looks real good.
Amazing. Um, but like I'm pretty sure the monsters only fought for like 10% of the movie in King of Monsters, and they looked amazing doing it. But then I had
Still makes it worth it. Still makes it worth it.
and then the Godzilla versus Kong had a lot more fighting in it, and those were some
Mm.
pretty cool things. And I definitely wasn't expecting Mecha Godzilla to show up in it. So they're going all out. So we'll see.
Mm.
Because see, now we have Godzilla minus one, which is like real serious Japanese Godzilla, and now we have these
Yeah.
big Rock'em Sock'em monster movies from Warner Brothers. It's just like, see, we have best of both. So
Yep.
really getting good.
I missed Godzilla minus one. I'm really kicking myself. I didn't get to see it yet. So
It's the one of the best looking $13 million movies I've ever seen.
yeah, people are saying just how good it is as a film in general. Like I'm really gutted
Yeah,
I didn't get to
it
see it.
the opening sequence is horrifying. Like it legit felt like a horror movie.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God. And like I actually felt for people. I cared about human beings in these Godzilla movies.
Yeah,
Shocking. Um,
that's what I'm hearing.
I have an interesting trio of recommendations here because I haven't so the one new movie that I got to watch that I wanted to recommend was Memory. This is starring Jessica Chastain and Peter Sarsgaard. This came actually as we're recording, widened in theaters today. Still haven't seen it playing like anywhere. So this will probably go to digital at some point and people will catch it. But it's about a recovering alcoholic with a lot of like childhood trauma, played by Jessica Chastain, who winds up falling for a dementia-ridden middle-aged man played by Peter Sarsgaard. So this movie's depressing, just to let you know.
I was
But I
just
thought
a little
that
bit
it,
opposite of what we were just talking about.
yeah, I thought it was still like a really well made and really well acted film. I was actually having a lot of conversation about this with Robert. Um, we we had differing perspectives on it, so it'll be interesting because we'll be talking about this on the SiftPop Writers Room review roundup for January. So stay tuned. One of my movies that I rewatched, which this was actually, I'm glad that I rewatched this, was Turning Red. This is such a fun
Oh yeah,
Pixar movie. And
it's a really important film, I think.
yeah, I really appreciate the perspective of, showing like teenage girls, dealing with puberty. Just so happened that this one girl turns into a giant red panda for puberty instead. And it's like a kid's version of Hulk, which I think is really interesting. How they
Yeah,
deal with that. And it also has a lot of like the Asian perspective in it. And I had a blast with how this movie wraps up in a giant arena and giant red pandas and boy bands.
you
It
are
goes
aware that
wild.
it's about. You're aware that it's about girls getting their period for the first time, right? That's what the whole theme is. Yeah, yeah. I have a teenage daughter, and when I watched it, I was like, "This is such a great film for me to watch to get some understanding on what she's going through." It's yeah. That's why I thought it was a very important film.
Yeah, and I really appreciated this. And this was one of the BS ones that they dropped on Disney Plus, the theatrical
Yeah.
release. And it
Mm.
is actually getting a theatrical release. They're releasing Soul, Luca, and Turning Red
Yes.
in theaters
I've heard that.
this month and next
That's a
month, which,
that's frustrating. Disney are pissing me off every single day. It's a cash grab, and I think I had a bit of a not an argument, but a conversation with someone on our Slack group about it.
well, it
No,
definitely
but
is a
Trish,
cash
see the positive
grab.
side.
And they
Of course,
know
it is.
they screwed up Pixar and their
Yeah,
reputation by dropping all these movies straight to, and like, it was really disrespectful that like they could put a $30 price on like Raya and the Last Dragon because it was
yeah,
Disney animation, and then
yeah,
Pixar it's just like nope, middle finger.
yeah.
And it's just like what the hell. They did release Lightyear in theaters, which
That's the thing. They're like Krusty the Clown. They say the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud. They put the good stuff straight to streaming and the shit stuff straight to cinema. It's like,
yeah, it's just like because they're like, oh, everybody will go see a Lightyear movie that nobody understands what the hell it is. So
yeah, yeah.
they should have done a better
It's
job trying to explain what it was, but they did.
yeah, the expectations is what we're all like here. The people expected something completely different.
Yeah, and what really pissed me off was that the whole entire discourse about it turned into a peck on the lips of two female characters. The it's like they're
Oh,
you wouldn't even notice it because it lasts half a second. And it's like Disney go woke. They have two women
go
kissing in it.
broke.
I'm like, kissing.
Yeah.
It's in a montage and it lasts half a second.
I see some.
Disney's so impressive straddling that line between people pissed off that it has any references to anything different, and then everybody else is like, that was the representation you're gonna die on. It's just like we're trying.
Yeah,
Are you? And
yeah,
then now they're just pissing
yeah.
off everybody with all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, stop remaking all of your animated movies into live action. You'll avoid all this problem. And
Absolutely.
just
Leave them alone.
Disney
Absolutely,
did
leave them alone.
deserve the box office crown this year, and I'm glad Universal took it from them.
Look, it's actually good to see them failing because it wakes them up and go, okay, this isn't we're producing shit that people don't want, and especially when it comes to the MCU and the MCU, it has to
I
die.
saw your comment about Echo and how you're done with watching Marvel stuff. So I know.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm done. Guardians 3. I will check out the Marvels when it comes to Disney Plus because Brie Larson. So,
Yeah.
but that's but I'm not excited to see it. like a sense. They're just and how are they going to dig themselves out of the Jonathan Majors hole? How are they
It
digging out
sounds
of
like
that?
they're recasting him. I've heard rumors that
Uh,
Coleman
do you know
Domingo.
what? I was walking around the store the other day and just randomly this thought popped in my head is that what they will do is they will multiverse. Well, they'll just use the multiverse as an excuse to change
That
him,
is the
and
easiest
that's
thing possible. You're already doing a multiverse story. Just change his face.
yeah,
Who
yeah,
cares?
exactly. Just what a cop out. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why I think introduction of the multiverse is ruining the franchise because it's confusing as hell. It's confusing
It
as
is.
shit, and it's just you can bring back whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules anymore. But you got the multiverse to excuse everything. And there was talk recently of them bringing back Iron Man and Downey Jr. and there was people in
No.
uproar about it. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. No,
It's
no, and nor should it. But
yeah.
if they did,
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But
oh, I wouldn't put it past them.
no, God no,
It's
no,
at the
they'll
point
do
where it's
anything.
like I've been enjoying post Endgame stuff a lot more than most people. I will admit it's a lot less consistent than what we're used to. And, I really enjoyed season two of Loki. I was shocked by how much I loved season two of What If. Like,
Yeah,
that I'm
okay,
okay with. Like, them going crazy with multiverse stuff and this animated show off to the side is really fun. But no, I
yep.
even said this when they were going to do the multiverse saga. I'm like, this is going to get weird and complicated, and you're going to confuse the hell out
Mm.
of a lot of mainstream audience members, and they're probably not going to go see all of it.
Well,
And
that's it.
then what
Yeah,
happened?
yep.
So
It implodes. It's imploding. Yeah,
I'm
it's
ready for
definitely imploding.
Deadpool 3, though, which is the only movie we're getting this year. So,
Is that right? Okay,
yep.
I didn't realize that
So
was only the only one.
well, I
It's
think
good.
they're getting 5 series on Disney Plus, but some of them are like they're rebirth. They're bringing back the X-Men '90s animated series with new seasons. So like that's one
Oh,
of the
okay.
shows that they're doing. So like not all
Okay.
of them, and they've even like Echo is supposed to be part of this new section of the MCU that doesn't connect to bigger stuff. So it's like you could watch this if you want to or not. And I'm like,
Right.
now they're wising
Cool.
to
Good. Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
it'll be interesting how late this is and if people are going to respond to it or not. But no, and even like DC, they're just rebooting everything. So it's an interesting
If
time.
they, I'm happy if they make those anthology series because Moon Knight was like that. It doesn't tie in, and I really enjoyed Moon Knight. I thought that was quite great.
They just talked
But
about Moon Knight season 2 will be coming, I think, in 2026.
nice.
So yeah.
2026. God, you'll be dead.
they're
You'll be
trying
dead
to
by then.
they're trying to take their time and spread things out, unlike the past how many years of just like power
Yeah,
with 4 movies a year and how many more series. That was a bad idea. They just
yeah,
saturated with so much crap. But
absolutely.
it is what it is. Yeah, Disney need to get knocked down a peg by Oppenheimer and Super Mario Bros. Because that's why
And
Universal won the box office this year.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and
Good
then
for them.
real quick, my last one. So, off my watch list since the start of the month, I've mostly only been watching 1912 movies because I'm preparing for this month's podcast for the Cinematic Wasteland. And I watched a really cool one called The Cameraman's Revenge. It's all stop motion animated bugs. But it's like a human story. One of these bugs catches his wife having an affair on him. And
What?
it's like a 12-minute human drama except with stop motion bugs. And they're like
That sounds
photorealistic
fascinating.
bugs. So they're
From
like
1912.
yeah, I'm just like this is
Wow.
weird, but I really like
Yeah,
this. It's 12 minutes. It's on YouTube if you want to check out The Cameraman's Revenge just from like pure curiosity. It's worth it. It's an interesting movie.
yeah. I think I might check that out.
But yeah, those are my recommendations. Definitely had some interesting conversations today. We're swinging wild. But Adam, thank you so
As
much
we
for
do.
coming and chatting some movies with me.
Yeah, no, no worries, man. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.